Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And I got a story straight out of Texas for you. That's wrapped around a medical school. And what we all should know is that medical students that become doctors, they take a moral turpitude and ethical code to maintain the utmost respect for humanity, mankind. And in this particular situation, the hypocrisy is what this medical school and their intentions and how they inhumanely dealt with deceased individuals and what they did with their body parts unbeknownst to their loved ones and family members. So they are supposed to take a moral and ethical code, a moral turpitude to do the right thing, to treat with care and compassion, helping and healing of humans. However, this medical school, with the remains of the deceased, what they were doing was completely inhumane, unacceptable, and family members were not even aware that some of their family members had been deceased and what this medical school was doing with their bodies. So let's go. This was an NBC investigation. It says that a Texas medical school was leasing out and or selling body parts of poor people. So the Texas medical program stops using unclaimed bodies following NBC News investigation. So please listen to this one. The University of North Texas Health Science Center will stop accepting unclaimed bodies following an NBC News investigation that documented how the Fort Worth program cut up and leased out the remains of poor people for training and research purposes without the consent from the dead and or their families. The center's president, Sylvia Trent Adams, announced the decision in a Monday afternoon email to students, faculty, and staff. The move was prompted, she said, by documents uncovered while responding to reporters' public record statements or public records requests about the center's willed body program. The documents uncovered through these requests revealed details into the program of which HSC leadership was not previously aware, Trent Adams wrote. Among the revelations were a lack of sufficient controls and oversight of how outside companies handled and used corpses provided by the Health Science Center, that's the HSC. Trent Adams said leadership had been unaware that the body program was routinely shipping unclaimed remains, including, you talk about inhumane, hypocritical dichotomy, including those U.S. military veterans across state lines. So deceased U.S. military veterans, where their bodies and body parts were being sold unbeknownst to the family members. The documents also detailed deficiencies in leadership, standards of respect and care, and professionalism exhibited. The NBC News investigation published Monday found the center had received, listen to this, about 2,350 unclaimed bodies from Tarrant and Dallas counties in the past 5 years. More than 830 of them were selected for use, including to educate medical students or leased out to companies that rely on bodies to develop products and teach doctors how to work with them. The center, HSC, charged $1,400 for whole bodies Heads went for $649 and torsos went for $900. Like they're selling them at Walmart. I mean, what is going on? Like these people were items at Walmart or Target. On Tuesday, Tarrant County Commissioners voted to accept the Health Science Center's decision to formally terminate the agreement and to direct county staff to, as one commissioner put it, wrap up the program with UNTHSC as fast as humanly possible. Judge Tim O'Hara, the county's top elected official, said commissioners were in agreement. No one's body should be used for medical research absent their pre-death consent or the consent of a loved one, he said before the unanimous vote. And certainly no one's body should be sold for profit absent consent one way or the other. The Health Science Center also terminated its agreement with Dallas County, according to County Administrator Darrell Martin. He said the county had been planning to let the contract expire on September 30th in light of NBC News findings. County officials had justified providing these bodies to the center because they had been marked as unclaimed, meaning that the deceased did not have families willing or able to make funeral arrangements. The agreements have saved each county about $500,000 a year in burial, or cremation costs. But NBC News analysis of these cases found repeated failures by death investigators in Dallas and Tarrant counties and by the center to contact family members who were reachable before declaring a body unclaimed. Reporters identified 12 cases in which families learned weeks, months, or years later that a relative had been provided to a medical school. 5 of those families found out what happened from NBC News. The news angered and traumatized them. Among those bodies that was discovered was Victor Honey, an Army veteran who was mentally ill and homeless in Dallas. After his death in September 2022, his body was dissected and the parts were used by a medical product and training companies and the Army. I'm going to say it again. His body was dissected and the parts were used by a medical product and training company and the Army. And he was an Army veteran. That's how they paid respect to this man's body. It says his family, including relatives who lived in the Dallas area, knew nothing about it until NBC News informed them of what happened this spring. They have since claimed his cremated remains and had them buried at the Dallas-Fort Worth National Cemetery. The Health Science Center's move to explicitly ban the use of unclaimed bodies follows a torrent of changes triggered by NBC News reporting. On Friday, as the news outlet prepared to publish its investigation, the center announced it was temporarily suspending the Willed Body program, firing the officials who led it and hiring a consulting firm to investigate the program's operation. The center also permanently closed the laboratory, BioSkills of North Texas, where medical device makers paid tens of thousands of dollars for access to lab space and bodies. Several entities that had unknowingly paid the center for unclaimed bodies also promised changes. DePuy Synthes, a Johnson & Johnson company, told NBC News that it had paused its relationship with the Health Science Center after learning that it had received body parts of unclaimed people. Boston Scientific, whose company Relievant Med Systems used the torsos of more than 24 unclaimed bodies, said it was reviewing its transaction with the center. The Army, which has received at least 21 unclaimed bodies from the Health Science Center since 2021, said it too was reviewing its reliance on the program. And the Texas Funeral Home Service Commission, which regulates body donation programs in the state, issued a moratorium on out-of-state body shipments earlier this year. while it investigates a range of issues, including the acquisition and distribution of unclaimed bodies by the center. In her email to faculty and students on Monday, Trent Adams, the Health Science Center president, described how the center's Willed Body program had in recent years veered away from the mission outlined when it was founded in the 1980s. It's been going on since the 1980s, 40 years, educating the center's own medical students. The agreements several years ago to take control of unclaimed bodies from Dallas and Tarrant counties had led to a substantial influx of bodies, Trent Adams said. That growth, she said, exceeded management capabilities and led to significant oversight issues. Moving forward, she said, the Willed Body program will obtain human specimens only from consenting donors, with the goal of getting back to the program's mission of educating future doctors and other healthcare providers. Trent Adams said she would soon hold a town hall to answer questions and address the concerns of students and staff, where we are refocusing our efforts on the original educational intent of the program, she wrote, and are working to make sure no unclaimed bodies are still being used in our programs. Holy cow! This is taking place at North Texas Medical School and their Health Sciences Center, where they are using unclaimed bodies and either selling or leasing out the deceased victim's body parts without the consent of the deceased while he or she was living, to donate their body parts. We all know that you have that on the back of your driver's license if you want to be an organ donor or what have you, and or the consent of the remaining family members. As I said, this seems like this was, here we go, profit over people. $500,000 a year they were making and saving by doing these kinds of things without the consent of the family members. Not even letting the family members know that they have a deceased family member. There are measures and ways legally, if somebody is found deceased, a human being, to do fingerprinting, to find out if they have relatives. All this technology we have today, there's no way that anybody's body should be unclaimed and then just disposed of in any way, shape, or form by any institution, let alone a medical school that's supposed to be in the business of ethical and moral turpitude in relationships to human beings. You become a doctor to be a helper and a healer. When you have this medical school in the background, in the guise of darkness, treating these deceased victims as if they were just some kind of item, as I said, at a large big box store, selling their limbs, their torsos, their heads, and putting a price tag on it. And of course, if it's one of your loved ones that happens to die or is deceased and unclaimed, you cannot put a price on how you feel about the people that you love, let alone if they end up dying. This is filled with hypocrisy, dichotomy for this medical institution, which, as I say, is supposed to be in the fashion of training these young people to be excellent caregivers and doctors to help people. We have to look at our entire medical paradigm straight from the government, from our U.S. government, what issues are very important. There seems to be a lack of concern for mental health concerns, which trickles down from our U.S. government all the way down to our medical schools. If they are using deceased victims' bodies, and mostly poor people or homeless individuals, and selling and or leasing their body parts, this is just as inhumane as you can possibly think of. You even had the one gentleman who was an Army veteran who had mental illness. I talk about it all the time. Untreated mental illness. He was homeless, served his country, and the way his country gave him the thank you was to, when he passed, even the U.S. Army that he gave his life for and defended our country, they were buying body parts of unclaimed victims. We have to take, and remember, our U.S. Army represents our government. So this goes from Washington, D.C., all the way down to our learning university and institutions. This is layered in hypocritical behavior on how we are treating other humans in this world, whether you are a living human being or a deceased human being. The appropriate measures need to be taken in order for organ donation, and you just don't do anything and everything that you want to do with an unclaimed body. The hubris in that is such an egregiously arrogant and heartless and gutless act. I'm glad this program stopped. Tell me what you think. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive and righteous and humane, God-fearing way.